So we played the first thing that came to our heads.
Just so happened to be
The best song in the world. It was the best song in the world.
Look into my eyes and it's easy to see. 1 and 1 make 2, 2 and 1 make 3. It was destiny.
That was pretty good.
We actually did that really good.
We're gonna have to do some editing, and it won't match up with the actual audio, but it'll be. I like it. Welcome to the Stoner's Point of View, show where we provide high-level analysis of music and movies and our impressions of such while under the influence of legal Canadian cannabis. Sometimes. My name is Brett. I'm here with my co-hosts, with the co-hosts, TP, the Tower of Power, Terrell Parker. Wait,
hello, friends. Oh, am I that way? I'm on this side. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm on the video.
It's all about the audio anyway. How you doing, Terrell?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for asking.
Good, man. And of course, we have PF, Pig Fucker. Can I call you Pig Fucker? No, only my friends can call me Pig Fucker. Phil Froze. How you doing, brother?
Oh, fuck. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm doing good. Sorry about the hold up on this episode, folks. Shit got a little bit crazy for me there for a little while, and
all right.
Needed to take a little break. So glad to be back. Glad to be back.
Breaks happen for everyone. Breaks happen for everyone. And I just want to say, anyone that was listening to that, if you can tell us in comments on YouTube or Twitter, Instagram, at the Stoner's POV, where that reference, that Pig Fucker reference was from, we will cover that movie on the show, but you have to get at us. Speaking of that, if you want to find all of our content in one convenient place, thestonerspov.com is where you can find that.
I should probably update that.
Probably. Check out our YouTube, check out our Spotify, and just check us out because we're awesome. We've got a pretty kick-ass show today.
Original.
It is week 3, and due to the circumstances surrounding the last couple of weeks, it will probably be the last week of Ass Kick in April. We're probably only going to do 3 installments, but that's okay. Because this is a banger of an episode. We're doing Tribute by Tenacious D, which, great song. One could argue it's probably the best song in the world.
It's a tribute to the best song.
It's a tribute to the best song.
True. Yeah, you're right. And then, we're going to get into Kick-Ass, which I was very happy to watch and kind of process this week. That was a sweet movie. So I can't wait to get into that. Anything you guys want to touch on before we get into the nitty gritty?
Well, since we're talking about Tenacious D and their song Tribute,
yeah,
I wanted to play a little game this week called Jack Black or Jack White.
Hey,
Jack or Jack.
What did you do? What did you do?
I hate Jack on Jack violence.
So what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about some quotes, and Brett and Phil are going to guess if it was Jack Black from Tenacious D or Jack White from the White Stripes. The White Stripes.
Oh my!
Are you guys ready for this?
I'm excited that you did this, man.
I'm pretty pumped.
I felt like you were left out on the game and you did the Rogan thing, so
Yeah, sweet.
All right, let's get this started. So this is the first time we're playing. It's probably going to be the last time, so winner takes all. There isn't a lot of quotes.
So if I win, Phil's fired, and if Phil wins, Phil's fired.
Deal.
Sounds good. All right. So
I like those odds.
Let's get started. Vinyl is the real deal. I've always felt like until you buy the vinyl record, you don't really own the album. And it's not just me or a little pet thing or some kind of retro romantic thing from the past. It's still alive.
I'm going to say Jack White.
I think it's Jack White as well.
You're both right. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
1 point.
That was hard, man. You picked hard ones.
Okay, so number 2. We're in the dark ages if J-Lo could have a music career because of her ass. And let's face it, that's it.
I'm going to say Jack Black.
Damn, you guys are 2 for 2. Ding, ding, ding.
Right.
All right, this is the tiebreaker. I make a mean peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Jack Black.
Jack Black.
You're both right. Luckily,
I live another day, motherfuckers.
no. There's a tiebreaker. I prepared for this.
Damn it.
Number 4, and the final one. If you guys tie it, like that's gonna be it. Though. I don't have more quotes.
I got nothing left.
This generation is so dead. You ask a kid, "What are you doing this Saturday?" And they'll be playing video games or watching cable instead of building model cars or airplanes or doing something creative. Kids today never say, "Man, I'm really into remote-controlled steamboats."
Jack White.
Fuck you guys. It's a tie. It's kind of like you got them both all perfect. Good job. I guess you guys.
The one guy, like he lives in the past and takes himself super seriously, and then the other guy's Jack Black. So it's kind of an easy one.
But you know what I always found that with like Rogan and Rogan, like Joe Rogan is like kind of like the weird, like not fun stoner to hang out with. That's like always like thinks they're smart and telling you like facts about things. And then Seth Rogen's like the cool, fun stoner to hang out with.
Have you seen his Twitter?
Seth Rogen is a savage on Twitter.
Yeah, savage social justice warrior.
It's true.
Please, Mr. Millionaire, tell me about how I should live my life.
So Jack Black is one half of the band we're covering today, Tenacious D. And
in their second appearance on the podcast,
yes,
Biodome.
And Jack Black's third appearance, High Fidelity. So go check those episodes out. Maybe not the Biodome. Well, yeah, check the Biodome one out because we rip it to shreds. But I watched the video for this because I don't think there's any better way to enjoy this song than watching the music video personally. So I would advise anyone listening to do the same. Basically, it starts out the guys are heading to a karaoke studio that Jack Black has hotwired up to be a real studio. And the song comes on, and my first thought was that like it's so good. And we've talked about this with Jack Black before in the Biodome episode, how he was like the best part of it, but also just his role in High Fidelity and stuff, how like he doesn't seem like he's being serious, like he ever, but somehow the talent just exudes through that.
Yeah.
And he manages to just be incredible at whatever he's doing, even though he's just, to me, it seems like he's just kind of like flippantly going out there and busting out these 5-star performances. I'm like, what is going on with this guy? Like, he's very talented.
Yeah, well, he's one of those assholes who just is just naturally talented at pretty much anything he seems to try. And I deeply resent people like that.
You know what's insane? Like, Jack, I don't know if you guys know this, just a little fact about it since we're, gushing about how much we love Jack Black.
Yeah.
Did you know that Jack Black's mom helped create the abort system that rescued the Apollo 13 astronauts? And she did this while, like, basically being pregnant with Jack Black and, like, gave birth to him. I'm pretty sure, like, shortly after she basically saved them. So yeah, like Judith Love Cohen, who helped create the abort guidance system which rescued the Apollo 13 astronauts, went to work on the day she was in labor. She took a printout of a problem she was working on into the hospital. She called her boss and said she finished the problem and gave birth to Jack Black. So he's not just naturally talented. Pretty sure his mom is kind of a main line to talent right in his veins.
Yeah, that explains that clears a few things up. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. So off the bat, it just like gets on the mic. He's like, "This is the greatest and best song in the world," and then the music starts, and it's like that nice, yeah. It's like the acoustic guitar that starts out is really good. And Tenacious D, like, man, I need to say more. Go run through their discography. You'll have a great time. I like the video too. I just like how they're in this studio, and then the story of the song starts, and they talk about how they're walking down this road and they meet this demon who's like, "Play the best song in the world, or I'll eat your souls." And
that demon is Dave Grohl, who played drums on the song, which is insane.
I have in brackets here, Dave Grohl the devil ? So I'm glad that you cleared that up for me.
Dave Grohl plays drums on that entire album, and I believe does a lot of the electric guitar. So he does a lot of the rhythm. He does a lot of the rhythm guitar. The solos, a lot of them are actually done by this guy named Warren Fitzgerald, who's the guitarist of the Vandals.
Okay.
Very cool, kind of skate punk band. If you never listened to the Vandals, check them out. They're probably one of the best of that genre and really not as well known as they should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's great fact. The lyrics in this song are really good, really kind of entertaining, more so than like deeply profound, I would say. But still, you can't watch this video, listen to this song, and not enjoy it, in my opinion. If you do,
unless you don't enjoy rocking out, and you're some like Christian grandma or something,
or you just take like music snobbily too seriously. Like,
well, if you're not digging this, like you are no fucking fun. Like you're
yeah. And I just want to say both these guys are amazing performers, and like we all know Jack Black's a great performer, but Kyle too, man. Like,
Kyle,
like he's great.
Good old KG, man, the Rage Cage. The man is a virtuoso on the old git fiddle there.
It's not only the git fiddle, like they can just pull out these amazing harmonies seemingly out of nowhere, and they're just awesome. Like, and you could tell the guys are just having fun, kind of just like, whoop, here's a sweet harmony. And
I totally agree with that. I think my favorite part of the song is when it's just like the vocal, like, and like the full band comes in, like that part like rocks my balls off every time I hear it. And you could feel like the palpable energy that like when they were writing that. It's imagine like I always try to, when I'm stoned, one of the things that I do, I don't know if you guys ever do this, when I'm listening to a song I really enjoy, I kind of like imagine myself like writing it and performing it and being on stage. And when that part comes in, I'm like, this really is like a really like great rock song. And funny enough, I don't know if you guys know about this, like according to Jack Black, he played One by Metallica to Gas and called it the best song in the world. And they wanted to make something close to it, but instead decided to make a tribute to it. So that's where this song actually comes from. But the reality is, if you know anything about music, this song's in A minor. It uses pretty much all the same chord progressions as Stairway to Heaven. Just top fact. Like the riff at the end kind of signifies that it's kind of like a...
And speaking of Metallica, if you know anything about music, you know that Lars Ulrich is a shitty drummer.
And you can find that out on our episode about Dumb and Dumber and Master of Puppets. Go back and check that out. We tend to not be very kind to Metallica, so if you want to hear us tear them a new one, go check it out.
On that side note, I just want to tell a side note. I was on TikTok just yesterday, and this guy, you may know him, the singer of Megadeth. You ever heard of him?
Oh, yeah. You sent me the Dave Mustaine clip.
So Dave Mustaine is like, everyone knows Lars Ulrich sucks at drums. He's not a good drummer.
Lars, I can take or leave. I mean, I think that the whole world kind of looks at it like that too. He's not a good drummer. He really isn't. Any good drummer will tell you that he's not. And
like my favorite part about it is this guy came on there and Buddy was like, it's not actually really hard to play metal drums, and Lars Ulrich is a pretty good drummer. And I was like, delete this. Like such a bad take. And like, first of all, metal is hard to play. Like, listen to this song. This song has kind of metal elements to it. And Dave Grohl's drumming is slapping. It's an amazing song, like all around. I like all the little guitar riffs and stuff in the verse, like the little background. It's a really like recorded song too. Like it sounds perfect.
Yeah, that's what I have written here too. Is like Jack Black is so awesome that like even when he's full goofy character, he's still playing and singing things that I wish I wrote, but I didn't. He did. Yeah.
Well, I remember picking up this album. I had seen before, like when Tenacious D were promoting this album, it was actually just Jack Black was a guest on Conan. And then it was right around the time when Andy Richter was about to leave the show. And so Jack Black was like, quote unquote, like auditioning for the part of like to be the new Andy. And all of a sudden he like breaks into song, and this bald, chubby guy pops out from behind the couch and is just playing guitar, and it's Kyle Gass. And then they're like, oh yeah, we're actually in the best band in the world, Tenacious D. And I thought it was so funny. Like I went to there was a record store in the town nearby where we all grew up, Record Works. Yep. And I saw that there, and I just grabbed it and just laughed my ass off. But at the same time, I was just blown away by the musicianship on display here.
Well, that's what's funny about this song. It was actually originally recorded as part of their like short-lived HBO TV series. So the first time people heard this song was like way before the video and the record was released. They like played it on the show. And the reason why I bring up the Stairway to Heaven thing is that given that there's like a Stairway to Heaven interlude in the TV, I think that tribute kind of implies that they're talking about Stairway to Heaven, in my opinion. But
well, on the show, they actually open it up with the riff to Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah,
that's great facts, boys. The video specifically, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't it on the Pick of Destiny, which was like their full video release?
Yeah.
Wasn't this included in that?
I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
But regardless, one of the parts that I really like,
it's in the climax of the movie. It totally is in the movie. Just
okay, cool.
Yeah.
I love the little clip in the video where they're in the studio, but the shot is from outside the studio, and all you can hear is just the acoustic and Jack Black just like rocking balls before it cuts back into the song being in. I thought that was really hilarious.
Yeah, that was back in the day when every album had skits, and every music video had like a part that broke away from the song, and there was a very peculiar time in music entertainment.
Well, to be honest with you, I hate when comedians do the whole I'm gonna play some songs for you that are funny. I find that kind of insulting to both comedy and music. But when Jack Black does it, totally fine with it.
It fucking rocks.
So
I would say so too. So then the video kind of wraps with this old lady getting an album and cackling, and her eyes turn red. I believe I was kind of high, if I'm being honest. But I noted that because that was how it ended, and I think I watched this video a couple of times and then listened to this song a few times because I was vibing so hard on it when the day to do my research was upon me. But yeah, I don't really have much more to say. The song was great. Jack Black's
Is it the greatest song in the world, though?
It's a tribute.
To it. Yeah. If only we could have heard the song they played on that fateful night.
It would be the first time we've given a 10 out of 10 because it would be the greatest song in the world, right? So
this is a tribute.
I might say if you haven't heard this album, Tenacious D's first album, check it out. It's
actually really good
front to back. And there are just some brilliant skits in there. The one note song,
amazing.
The drive through. It's just solid, and if you're driving, just be careful because you might have to pull over because you're laughing so fucking hard.
All right, well, I'm ready to rank this bad boy. I liked it. Musicianship was great. It was entertaining too, and as we've said multiple times, it was entertaining in a way that didn't feel kind of cheesy like it usually is. When it was a good way you put it there, Terrell. When people try to mesh music and comedy, this was done properly, in my opinion, and the song was great, and I loved it. So I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I am also going to give it an 8 out of 10. It just, I don't know. There's something about it. I think, when it came out too, I remember the music video being on all the time. This was in 2002. So I still lived at my parents' house. I remember, cause it was, 19 years ago. So, and anyways, I remember getting slightly annoyed by how big it was back then. Now that I remember, but what happened to me is I put on the whole record. And by the time you get to cock push-ups, you're having a great time. You're laughing, and it's great musicianship. And yeah, I love this song. And whenever I hear it, I just want to rock out. So 8 out of 10.
You know what? I would give this a 10 out of 10, but apparently there is a better song, the best song in the world. Out there, floating out there somewhere in the ether.
It must be Two Princes by the Spin Doctors.
Yeah, maybe that was the song they played on that.
Imagine that, 1, 2.
A whip crack with his whip a tail.
Go check out our Event Horizon episode, and you'll see what we're talking about with all this.
But yeah, I'm gonna give it. You know what? I played this album on repeat. Big fan of the D.
I bet
if
you
know
are.
what I mean. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. Just this whole album just holds a special place in my heart.
I do remember you really, really being into this, like when it came out.
Oh, I remember.
Which is funny because
it's probably how I heard of them, to be honest.
Yeah, I woke up one morning, I remember, and I put my headphones on. They were like can style ones like this, and I put that album on, and I'm just like listening. It was one of the first songs. It was like the one where it's like, "Hear me and KG come naked." And, I'm like, why does it sound so muffled? And then I realized I just had it cranked in my room, and my mom like busts in the door like, "What are you listening to?" And, yeah, I was like, "Oh, I don't know. It just came on. It must have been a mistake on the radio or something." God,
which is hilarious because at that time you were listening to like Thursday and Poison the Well, but that's the stuff that set her off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a classic song. Yeah, 9 out of 10 for me.
Beauty. Awesome. Well, that'll do it for the first half, the song portion of our show. We're gonna take a little brief pause to refresh ourselves before we come back and dive into Kick Ass, which I got lots to say about that. I'm sure we all do. So make sure you tune in after the jump. Welcome back to the second half, Stoner's Point of View. We're about to get into Kick Ass, which, true to its name, was a great kick-ass movie. It didn't necessarily have as many deaths as the previous offerings in Ass Kickin' April, but it was pretty graphic as hell, and some of the deaths were, I'd argue, crazier.
Yeah.
And this is a wonderful celebration of violence.
Yeah, I think anytime a little girl is ninja kicking the shit out of dudes with a fucking bow spear thing,
right?
I don't know if you guys noticed this. If you when I watched it on Netflix, and like one of like the warnings, like the tags for it was actually brutal violence.
So on that note, I know this is kind of deviating from our standard format, and that's okay. I'm going to try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible, but I want to open the show with it just because of how the movie is. I want to list my top 5 deaths without trying to be spoilerific. I won't say who necessarily, but I'll just outline the deaths, and then if there's any that I say that I didn't say that you guys think should be in there, feel free to jump in with those, but I want to start with that. So number 1, right off the bat, opening scene, guy crashing into the taxi from the high rise.
Are you meaning the Armenian guy with the health problems?
Yes, exactly. Exactly him.
Okay. Yeah.
So number 2, guy who gets microwaved.
Yeah.
That one is pretty cool. Yeah, that one is good. They just laugh, little goons. Yeah.
I love how they show it from his perspective and everything's just getting hazy.
Well, I love them like, tell us what's going on, and he's like, he just can't hear them.
Yeah, exactly. Number 3, guy killed in the car crusher.
Yeah.
He didn't want to die. He was sad.
Yeah, you know what? Like that's such a classic trope of like mob style executions, but they never make it as gory as it actually would be.
That would leave blood and guts and shit everywhere.
And we'll get to this later, but it wasn't actually the mob that killed the guy in the car crusher.
Yeah.
But what I loved about that scene was like the guy's getting crushed and he's screaming and it's not until it's like really small and you see the like spatter on the windshield that then you're like, oh God. But anyways, yeah. Number 4, guy who gets tied to a chair and burnt to shit.
Wow.
So that was a sad part. Sad. Yeah, it was a sad part, but it was crazy to me. And then number 5, guy who gets killed via bazooka blast out the window.
Obviously the best death.
You know what one of my favorites is? It's right around it's leading up to the bazooka scene is when Hit Girl, she like trips a guy who's holding a shotgun and he falls and blows his own head off. That was just it's such creative violence.
The rope was wrapped around the gun barrel too and pulled it into him under his chin.
Well, she does something similar in I believe in the drug den, or no, actually in the hotel lobby, and she wraps her grappling hook around a guy's pistol and then pulls it again.
Sorry, that's the one I'm talking about. Yeah. So I have as an honorable mention, just as an umbrella, like Hit Girl's entire final.
I was just gonna say, like,
sequence,
Hit Girl in general. Like, my favorite scene is when obviously Kick-Ass is shocked to see the level of savage violence, and like he sees the guy coming towards him and he's about to get beat up or killed or whatever, and then the guy just gets stabbed and he's like, and then it's just him crying for like 5 minutes.
So just so that people that are here aren't completely lost, we should go through just and kind of take it through piece by piece, but I wanted to do that first just because, like, to me that was what stuck out more than anything while I was watching, was just like how insane some of the deaths were. So I really wanted to cover that, but just some housekeeping and kind of some administrative stuff. This is a Matthew Vaughn film, who also produced Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. Yeah. He produced both those movies, and we covered Snatch on episode 21, so check that out. And oddly enough, to tie into that, Brad Pitt being one of the characters, it was also co-produced by Plan B Entertainment, and Brad Pitt is one of the owners. Well, now he's the sole owner. He used, at the time that it came out, he was a co-owner, and it goes deeper down the rabbit hole with us, because that Plan B Entertainment also I believe co-produced, but may have sole produced The Departed, which is what we covered in episode 9. And so, lots of tie-ins with this movie and our show. And so,
well, I believe Brad Pitt is actually listed as an executive producer on this film, just like himself by name.
And obviously, we didn't mention Nick Cage is in this movie.
Oh, yeah, I was going to get Rage.
I was going to get there. But yes,
we got Rage Cage and Cage Rage, baby. I like it.
I did not realize that he was in this movie. I had totally forgot. I have seen this before, and I totally forgot. So when I saw him come on, I was like, oh my goodness. And like,
it's his like best role of like recent string of shitty movies.
I agree. I was perplexed at how I had forgotten that, but
I had also forgotten about that too. And my wife was like, "You're doing another Nick Cage film." I'm like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah, we are."
Yeah. You know what I love about it is, I don't know if a funny fact, he actually modeled his speaking pattern on Adam West, like the original TV show Batman. And I was watching clips of the original Batman, and it's actually pretty like funny how like similar it is how he talks. And I love his performance in this movie. I think he's probably the best character and has the best character arc in my opinion.
Yep, I agree. And this is his third time on our show now. Like episode 26 we did Face Off, episode 3, way back episode 3 we did The Rock, and so go check those out. But the movie starts, we get some backstory. Well, after we get the scene of the guy jumping off the roof, as they're kind of giving this little bit of a introduction on the pathos of heroes and such. And it's just a great way to kind of introduce the style of the movie, because it's satirical. Like, it's
a black comedy, I feel.
Yeah, it's a satirical superhero movie. And I'm glad you mentioned tropes earlier, Phil, because like this movie turns a lot of tropes on their head. And I don't have them in a list like I did with the deaths, but as we get to them, I'm gonna call them out as I saw them when we were going through, because I noticed that there was a lot of them.
But, well, another thing, like I found interesting about this movie and doing some research, because there is a, obviously, it's playing on the whole comic book movie, right. But the movie itself seemed like an original IP, but it was actually, there is a kick-ass comic, and it was actually written in tandem with the movie. So the person, I can't remember the guy's name, but whoever wrote the script for the movie and I believe directed it as well. He met Mark Miller, the guy who wrote the comic, and they're just like Mark Miller, I guess, pitched the idea to him, and he's like, "Yeah, that's sick. Like, I'll write a script, you write the comic." And they released, like, I believe it was within a few months of each other.
The first movie actually follows. There's 4 books of the comic, and the first movie basically follows the first book, and then the second movie follows book 2 and 3 kind of together. So, if you are a fan. They are quite similar, like both the movie and the book, and they're kind of both known for the extreme violence.
Yeah, I actually totally forgot that there was a comic book. I know there was definitely like a shitty iOS game too. But yeah, I totally forgot there was a comic book, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to download Comic Rack again and totally legally acquire those CBR files from those comic books.
Yes, you know what's funny actually too, talking about this movie, talking about tropes and stuff, going back to what Brett was saying earlier. I love the part where him and his nerd buddies are hanging out talking about, like, you know, why hasn't someone ever been a superhero before? And his buddy's like, probably because it's impossible, dipshit. Like, and I love how they're like, Bruce Wayne had expensive shit that doesn't exist. Like,
yeah. So yeah, the nerds I like because it kind of starts with them. We get some backstory on Dave, who's the guy who become Kick-Ass, and I had a bit of a stoner moment with the nerds in the high school. Actually, how like all three of them are in the high school and they're all kind of awkward and shy, walking through the halls, kind of sideways, glancing at everybody. And then when they meet up, and the three of them are now together walking, the swag turns up. And like all of a sudden the nerds have like this confidence that comes out because they're in a group.
Yeah. That was like us in high school, except for you, Brett, because you were always handsome.
Oh, but and this might tie in with that, but later on you see they're still just awkward nerds.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, so one of the tropes that comes out at the start, and it's part of why I enjoy the satirical nature of the movie, is I like when he calls out like avenging his mother as a trope, but calls it out as like, it's my mother died of an aneurysm, and you might think that means that I'm out for revenge or something, but I'm not, you know, and just like kind of just shrugs it off, right? And
the scene of like when they show his mom die, like just like mid sentence, just like.
Yeah, that should have got an honorable mention because it wasn't crazy, but it was very like they're just at the table eating dinner and she just face plants into the table.
Yeah. Talking about like avenging your parents, though, he says that, but like Hit Girl's whole story is totally like a Batman light. Like her mom dies, and then obviously, spoiler alert, Big Daddy dies.
Yeah,
and that obviously motivates her to continuing brutally murdering bad guys.
Well, and parent dying is what leads to our arch villain for the second movie.
I wanted to ask you guys about this. You know, if someone did this in real life, like in the real world, how would you feel about someone like actually murdering and killing bad guys? Like, do you think that would you like be chill with that, or would you be like kind of fucked up? Like, what are you? I just wanted to kind of a note. I just had a note here. Ask the guys if they would kill people and pretend to be superheroes and be chill with it.
You know, I think that's how there's an organization that got started like that, and then they went south. What's it called? Oh yeah, the Police. And I'm not talking about the band. So I think it I think it goes south. There was a guy, Phoenix Jones, somewhere in the States. He was an MMA fighter.
That's a superhero name.
Yeah, well, that's he was an MMA fighter, and he actually got a silly suit and would go around beating the shit out of people.
Just imagine you're dealing some crack and you're like, hey, is that the MMA fighter? What's his name, Phil?
Phoenix Jones, I believe his name is.
Is that MMA fighter Phoenix Jones in skin tight lycra approaching us?
And then he got this whole crew of superheroes. And it was really lame, and it ended up the guy got like arrested for like drug dealing. Like I think he was selling like coke or something. So you know, life's not a comic book. He was probably
selling it as superhero supplements.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have the power of talking too much.
So the actor's got 3 names, and I don't remember any of them, but he played McLovin in Superbad. He's the kid in this movie, Chris D'Amico.
I call him McLovin too. The whole movie.
He's always going to be McLovin, but he does a good job as Chris D'Amico / Red Mist. And like he's in, I believe it's the comic. Is it the comic book store? And Dave and the nerds are like, you know, they want to introduce themselves to him or whatever. And as he's walking up, the big dude just walks over. He's like, "Fuck off."
But I love because McLovin, like he like looks and he's like, "A new friend." Yeah, fuck off.
Fuck off.
Yeah. So then we get this a little bit of an info dump scene, but this is our introduction to his dad, Frank D'Amico. And they're talking about this coke deal that went wrong, and a guy who looks like Batman stole the dope. It's a bit of a classic gang interrogation scene. And the actor who played Frank D'Amico, probably my second favorite performance in the movie. He's an actor named Mark Strong. And
Mark Strong, though, he's like there was a period there, like in 2010, where they're like, "Hey, we need a villain for our movie."
Yes.
And they're like, And they
Mark
like,
Strong.
I imagine producers like all hanging out, like snorting coke, and then they're like, "Oh, we'll just call Mark Strong."
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say that, like, he's another one of those, as I mentioned in the 300 episode, he's another one of those, like, chameleon actors that can, like, play a bunch of different roles all over the place and not really gain any kind of, like, star-studded notoriety. He can kind of, like, slide into any movie and, like, fit in seamlessly as either a major or minor character. And this one, he's a major, and I like him. I like that he's got that kind of cartoonish Batman/Bond villain like quirk with the scar on his forehead.
Mm-hmm.
The like 69 scar, very villainish.
69.
But yeah, I enjoyed watching this movie, and like I actually noted it. That's how good of a time I was having with it. Because like even the filmmaking, like, okay, so we got this scene where Chris D'Amico, McLovin, goes to the movies, right? And I think it's really cool that like as he's going to the movies, Dave and the nerds are coming out. And then we can all of a sudden show them, and we can cut back to their perspective and point of views. And I don't know. I found that filmmaking touch to be very very
yeah,
clever.
It definitely has that like really like rapid fire but very fluid pacing to it, much like a Guy Ritchie movie, for instance. I was watching that, and like the actual like the shots and stuff. I find they range from like average to there are some moments where you're just like, wow, that was really well done. But overall the filmmaking is it's just a really tight, well done. No, there's no fluff.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, you know how Phil always bitches when the movies are like over an hour and a half? Like this movie's 2 hours, but you don't feel like it's 2 hours.
Yeah,
it flies right by. It has a really good pace. Like even I love the like all the like there's lots of montages. Like we get introduced to Mindy and Damon, who is Hit Girl and Big Daddy, and they're practicing getting shot. We get that montage of Dave pretending to be like Kick-Ass doing his preparations.
Yeah, well, his scuba suit arrives, right? And he's like, but that's the thing, Terrell. His montage is not even him training; it's him posing in a mirror saying like cool things. Like that's his.
But what would a superhero do, right? Like that's obviously how you start. Is like practicing your lines.
I love how he's looking for a cat named Mr. Bitey.
Well, and that's another trope. I mentioned this here too. He's literally saving the cat, which is a classic trope to get sympathy for the main character of a story, and he's literally doing it. And I just love how it just on the nose, like, great movie.
You mentioned sorry if I'm skipping ahead here, but Terrell, you had mentioned the training Big Daddy and Hit Girl, and I love that, like, you get Nick Cage, and again you get introduced to Nick Cage in true Nick Cage style, shooting his daughter in the chest. Like,
being all sweet about it, like, okay, honey,
and you love him for it.
I'm just gonna 3 more, baby. That's all. 3 more. You're gonna give me ice cream after this.
Yeah, and you come to find out that he was being nice because he was using low velocity rounds.
Yeah. But yeah, there's that bulletproof vest scene. Also, he's gonna get her a butterfly knife for Christmas, and like, it's funny because it's the classic, like, it's actually a very classic family, like, father-daughter scene. It's just the content is all just brutal.
I mean, me and my daughter, we always practice her getting shot and stabbing people. That's
Well, my daughter, she's figuring out the butterfly knife.
Well, she's like, one now. One now.
I got her one for her birthday. Her first birthday was a few days back, and
she's probably actually there. She might actually be getting to the point where she does try to bite you when she gets pissed off. Like, that's usually around
some pretty epic temper tantrums.
Yeah, that's around.
She's gone in for the bite a few times already.
But yeah, you can tell that he's been conditioning his kid to be a badass from like a very young age. And then through that, we kind of get some backstory on him. Basically, there's a dirty cop who's like works for D'Amico. and there's a clean cop, Marcus. Is his name Marcus?
Yeah, yes. Marcus is his partner.
Yeah, who was his partner, and then there's the bad guy D'Amico himself. And so basically, Frank with the dirty cop ended up getting Big Daddy framed for drugs and got him arrested and fired from the police force. His wife ends up committing suicide, and so now he's become a vigilante. That's basically, in a nutshell, the backstory on Big Daddy. And they sort of convey that through some interesting dialogue with like Marcus and Big Daddy, I guess, while he was in the slammer.
Well, they do like a comic book kind of like scene even too, which is sick. Yeah,
really cool. And then meanwhile, during this, Kick-Ass is trying to self-train, and this is where he ends up getting stabbed by some muggers and then hit by a car.
Well, it's the guys that earlier in the movie stole their wallets, and so he sees them and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna go.
But also they're like trying to jimmy a car, right? So he's like, I'm gonna stop them in the act.
Brett, I don't know if you noticed this, but that scene in that parking lot is filmed like right in downtown Hamilton, like right by
this was filmed in Hamilton.
Right where Hamburger is.
It looked familiar. I was like,
this is filmed in Hamilton. Yeah.
A lot of it's filmed in Toronto too. Like the scene at the end there where they're in the Red Mist car, Hit Girl and Kick-Ass. That's in Toronto. That's on Yonge Street.
So awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, Brett, I if you go back and watch this film again, like you'll be like, oh yeah, like I used to walk there like every day. Like it's like like when I live downtown, it's like filmed like right in that area. Speaking of which, do you guys remember that time we were all drunk and walked through the set of an Arkells video and got yelled at? That was hilarious.
Really? Was I with you?
Yeah, you were with us.
That just goes to show how drunk you were that day.
No shit.
So, as a result of his myriad of injuries, Dave / Kick-Ass ends up with some nerve-ending damage, and actually kind of becomes a bit of a superhero because of it. Like, that's a superpower, not feeling like people swatting you and stuff, like not feeling pain.
Well, the scene when he's back in school and his buddy's just fucking with him, just smacking him, and he's like, all right, goes to leave and then smashes him with like a cafeteria tray. I'm just like, yeah, that's what Brett and Terrell would be doing, you know?
Exactly. And I just love how, like, because of the concealing his identity and the paramedic like helps him out and stuff and like covers for him, the direct result is that his dad thinks he was raped. The school thinks he's gay,
but he gets the girl of his dreams.
I was just gonna say the gay thing ends up being a double-edged sword because it leads to this key subplot with the girl he likes, who otherwise didn't even give him the time of day. Yeah. But now that she thinks he's gay, he can be her cool gay friend. And anyways.
Yeah, they nailed that, and again, like his friends just like ribbing him about it, like, oh, like who do you think? Who is Kick-Ass? Is that your kind of guy? Like, do you think he's got a great body? Like, yeah, again, like that's what we would do. I really appreciate that, you know.
And then we get Chris D'Amico kind of pretending he's a badass. He walks in and his dad's kicking the shit out of a training dummy in karate, and I'll come back to that later. But then he gets a call from these dudes and we see death number 2, the microwave scene. And I was just like, oh my gosh. Like, they're trying to, they don't even know how it works, right? The guys who put him in it don't even know anything about it. It's just like trying to question him and interrogate him. It's like, who took the coke? Before they could even continue their line of questioning, he just explodes, liquefies.
Well, because they call up Frank.
Yeah.
They call him up and they're like, yeah, there's no vice here. There was a vice here. It's not here anymore. But we got this big industrial microwave. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. Do you think I fucking care? And I love that. It's so great.
I love my favorite Frank line is actually a little earlier when they're talking about like who's stealing the coke and everything. And he's like, what? Am I getting fucked by a ghost? Like, I love that he says that.
Which reminds me of New Year's and a guy actually getting
raped by a
ghost.
We have a very special New Year's tradition, a certain video we watch.
Anyways, getting off topic. So here's where we get a Kick-Ass's like kind of training montage and the saving the cat thing. And he has his first real fight scene, and basically it's just him kind of outlasting the assholes.
I love what Damon says. It's like, Kick-Ass, eh? Should have called him Ass Kick.
Yeah. And he delivers it so deadpan that it's like he thinks it's hilarious.
It is funny though.
What I love about that scene is it was like, you know, it was kind of a joke, but it actually is like a valid issue in today's society, where like Kick-Ass is like, call 911, and he's like, just gets his phone and starts filming, and that is an actual problem with people now. Like, you know, people are too busy whipping out their phones and you know, yelling "World Star" than to actually, you know, help somebody or call the appropriate people to help.
For sure.
And you know, they're making MySpace references and shit in this movie, so that was a bit of social commentary that was ahead of its time, if you ask me, in that scene.
Yep, I agree. And the direct result of this, and it's a good thing Buddy did film it, because he becomes this internet sensation. And so now Kick-Ass is famous. Dave's gay, and the girl he likes wants to hang out with him. And the two kind of converge together a little bit, because she confesses to him that she wants to get rid of this Razul guy. So Kick-Ass goes there, tases him in the face.
Yeah, and fails huge after realizing that that's not enough to take a huge drug
Phil,
game.
you know what that reminded me of? It reminded me of us talking about that one MMA fight where the little skinny dude's entire game plan was to just get the first punch off.
Yeah, go for the glove touch.
Yeah, like he was gonna fake the glove touch and just punch the guy in the face, and that was gonna be his big move that he did.
Yeah,
and he proceeds.
Manny Reyes. Look him up on YouTube. He's got some great fights.
And then like this is what this reminds me of, because it doesn't work. And like the other guys are looking at him like, the fuck? Buddy like rips the tasers off and grabs the knife, and he's about to carve him up, and then Hit Girl saves the day along with Big Daddy, who's the Batman looking guy. And now all of a sudden all the stuff that's been hinted at in the plot all starts to come together, and we're all happy now. Those deaths, they didn't make the list, but they're still pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, Terrell had mentioned when
when Mindy first shows up as Hit Girl, when she like graphically stabs him from behind, and like that's when I was even like, okay, this movie is how it's gonna be. It's going for some realism here.
Well, it's so cool, because like up until then, it's like this fun fantasy movie, and like and it's pulling you along for the ride, and you're enjoying it, and then it's just like and you know, it hits you at the same time as it hits you know, the Dave's character, that like the reality of what is going on here, and how brutal it actually would be.
He's staring in the movie like all fucked up and covered in blood, and he's like staring in the mirror, and he's like, Hit Girl and Big Daddy are the real deal. He's like, me? I'm just a stupid dick in a wetsuit. That's what he
said. Exactly. So he has a bit of an existential crisis, needless to say, but they do a good job weaving that into the plot, because apparently when the original Coke deal had went down, someone had got a snapshot from it, and it's actually who we now know as Big Daddy. But the gangsters think it's Kick-Ass because he's the popular internet sensation. So then Frank sees him walking down the street and just like mafia executes him. But then we find out it's an impersonator. But I mean, there's that brief second the first time you watch it where you're like, what? So I guess that's worth a little bit of a mention. But
yeah, well, and they play it off too. Like they don't make it immediately apparent that it's an impersonator, right? So
I really thought, I was like, whoa, I forgot the Kick-Ass just gets brutally murdered.
You think that it's now called Big Daddy, like the movie just changes the title for it. Anyways,
I want there to be a Big Daddy movie now. That
like a prequel.
I could deal with that. And God damn it, Nick Cage just needs a good role again. You know?
Yeah, I hear you. He's due. So then Chris D'Amico, who's going to become Red Mist, he swears to his dad he can get Kick-Ass, and desperate to prove his, loyalty or whatever you want to say. But he lures him in by being like, another cool superhero. We do cool superhero stuff. And they hang for a bit, and he gets all high. Great stoner reference. I'm glad that it came up, because we're all about the stonerificness. Anyways, they hang out for a bit, and then they show up at the lumberyard, which was supposed to be a trap, but it's on fire. and oh shit, and Red Mist runs into the fire, and he's like, "There's people in there," blah blah blah. And you think that like he might have some redeeming qualities, but he just wanted to grab the teddy bear that was actually a nanny cam. And then he ends up showing his dad this nanny cam, and it cuts. And this is another cool instance of the filmmaking. It starts out showing the nanny cam footage, like in the quality that the nanny cam footage is, but then it goes to like full quality of the actual scene, the warehouse fight scene.
That's an amazing scene.
Awesome.
Oh, I love. Yeah, it like zooms through the monitor, and then the perspective starts changing.
Also,
that's just like the sorry, Terrell, it's again just so brutal, and you see how ruthlessly efficient Big Daddy especially is. Big Daddy, but and Hit Girl, but it also captures that like it's kind of a game to her, you know.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, side note, one of my favorite movies we should do on the podcast has the same song during that the lumberyard burning down. It's the theme
28
song.
days
28
later.
Days later. Yeah, I love that.
I recognize that because, fun fact, that song was my wrestling entrance theme song for a while.
That's a good theme song.
If you want to trigger your inner anxiety, just listen to that song. It'll do it for you.
Great tune. It's called "In a House in a Heartbeat." So go listen to it and dig it. Anyways, now Frank D'Amico's on to Big Daddy, who realizes that somehow magically and decides it's time to make Frank D'Amico go bye-bye, as he says verbatim to Hit Girl, which is, man, it's just great. I don't know. Like, Cage does an awesome job at this, man. But meanwhile, Dave wants to quit being Kick-Ass and just kind of give it up. Like, the whole superhero shtick is way too much for him. So, but first he has to go see the girl and come clean. And in a totally believable situation, he comes out that he's actually straight. He's actually Kick-Ass. And she somehow just decides to start dating him. Then and
she accepts it. Which we all know most women would be like, well.
I love it when she asks him to stay. And like, because they're like 18-year-olds or something like that.
They're like 16. They're like 16.
No, I think they're 18 actually. I believe it's mentioned in the film. But I love how Kick-Ass or how Dave his first it was like, oh wow, okay, and he just goes for like the awkward titty grab first thing. I don't know. It just struck me as really funny. To be a teenager again and just be
Can I tell you guys a real? Can I tell you guys a real embarrassing story related to touching titties? I was first time kissing this girl, and she was at my parents' house, and she was beside me on this chair, and my move was to go around and grab her titty like this, while and she broke up with me immediately because of that poor titty grabbing move. So if you're out there and you're listening,
and what I love about the awkward teenager thing about this scene is she's like, "Do you want to stay?" And he's like a sleepover.
Well, because they were having gay BFF sleepovers. So
right. So then we see Big Daddy, and there's a bit of obvious foreshadowing in this scene. But he lets Hit Girl buy this $300,000 something that we don't find out until later is actually, I'm going to spoil it, whatever. It's a machine gun jetpack.
Which is pretty sick.
Which is really awesome.
Yeah, Gatling gun jetpack to be.
There you go. Okay, fair enough. But anyways, Kick-Ass does one last meetup with Red Mist after he decides to delve back in, I guess. And then introduces him to Big Daddy and Hit Girl, which proves to be kind of where the movie starts to do its undoing. It's this shit show where D'Amico shoots Hit Girl, and then his guys all catch and capture Big Daddy, who's distracted by his daughter who just got shot. And then it leads to the kind of the warehouse live stream of Kick-Ass Unmasking, which during this scene they're kind of being interrogated and beat on and stuff. And one of my funny stoner moments was that I thought was an interesting filmmaking decision was Kick-Ass is getting beat on, right? He gets punched in the face. Okay. He gets hit with a baseball bat in the chest, and the film
and the balls.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. The film only cuts to his girlfriend wincing after he's hitting the balls, and then she like it cuts to her, and she's like, oh, and then like tears are coming down her eyes. Anyways, my stone brain thought that was funny, but we get another little trope talk here, which is Dave kind of touching on the trope of narrating your own death, and he's like, oh, and you think because I'm narrating, I couldn't have died here? He's like. He's like insulting the viewer.
I love how when he's like, you know, it's like I wasn't like sad about dying. I was just sad about like all the stuff I would never get to do.
Yeah.
You know, never learn how to drive. Never get to find out what happened on Lost. Which really, if you did find out what have you watched Lost,
it wasn't worth it.
It's not that bad of a thing to not find out. If you haven't finished the series, don't
just leave it.
Just let it live on in your mind because it's fucking better.
And then we get the badass rescue scene, which was the first person night vision scene, which was sweet.
Yeah, that was giving me some Buffalo Bill vibes.
Right. Go check out our Silence of the Lambs episode. I don't know when. It was a few weeks ago, but go check it out. It was really good. Anyways, and then like after that, she kills a few people with the night vision, and then all of a sudden the strobe light comes on, and there's this like epic music behind the whole thing. And what I really love about it is like Cage the whole time
giving her instructions,
singing and yelling these instructions.
Come, child. He gets a southern accent out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, I think he's trying to sing, right? Like to not be obvious about the instructions he's giving. That's the vibe I was feeling. But maybe he was just screaming because he was on fire.
Maybe.
That could be it.
Terrell, I wanted to ask you that strobe light, because I know that you have issues with that. When I was watching that, I was like, oh, I wonder if like Terrell was like getting a headache or a migraine or anything from that scene.
No, I was fine. I no longer get seizures from flashing lights.
Okay, I just know they still fuck with you a little bit. So
yeah, it was a little. That's a really good question because I think a lot of movies don't even think about how like difficult they are to watch for some people. Like that movie is one of those movies too. Like when it came in, I was like, oh, but you adjust and it was fine. Yeah. It's an amazing. It's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. To be honest
it's great. And one note that I have about it is like because this is where Big Daddy dies, obviously because he got burnt to shit. And it's sad and all. And like I just want to take one step back. That epic music behind Hit Girl kicking everyone's ass. That was some sick, like epic, cinematic music. They did a good job. Anyways, but yeah, what I was saying about Big Daddy is like the scene is sad, and he's dead and stuff. And I just put this movie. It isn't enough to have a memorable death scene, but you have to outdo the manner in which the memorable death scenes happen as the movie goes. Like it's almost like a typical story, right? Will try to escalate various elements of the plot throughout the movie, and in this movie those elements of the plot are the deaths that happen.
They kill the fuck out of some people in this movie.
So anyways, we get Hit Girl and Kick-Ass planning the final takedown of Frank D'Amico. Leads to the final showdown. We get Hit Girl's entrance to the place where she kind of deals with the doormen by pretending to be like lost or something.
Girl.
And I like the Western music that was behind this.
I was gonna say that's like it's what that is. It's a tribute to Ennio Morricone, who did the soundtrack for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's a great fact.
My favorite line in this scene is when they're fighting and Hit Girl actually gets trapped, and we haven't had the cool entrance of Kick-Ass yet. And I love when the one guy grabs the bazooka, the other guy turns to him. He's like, "It's fine, we got it under control." And he's like, "Under control? You're grabbing a fucking bazooka, you dumbass!"
Well, I like leading up to him grabbing the bazooka, where he's just kind of like, because we have to explain how they got the bazooka when they raided Big Daddy's place. He just kind of sees it on the wall. He's like, "I'm taking this fucking bazooka." They're kind of in this weird standoff after Hit Girl has like gone ape shit on
pretty much killed everyone in a hallway.
With a bunch of sweet death scenes. Go watch it. I'm not even going to touch on all of them.
You know what that actually reminded me of? I was very reminiscent of. It was the lobby shootout in The Matrix.
Yeah.
But just really fucking gory. And like it's just, and instead of, Trinity and Neo, you've got Hit Girl, who's like a little girl, just no pun intended, kicking ass.
Yeah. So what I love about the since we're still on the bazooka thing, like what I love about the setup for that is the three guys are kind of like huddled behind a corner, and she's behind like a kitchenette or something. Anyways, Buddy turns around and tries to shoot her with a machine gun and takes 2 knives in the chest. Like immediately. And that's when the big dude's like, fuck, I'm going to get the bazooka.
I think she's like, look, she's like, did he just say bazooka?
Yeah. And yeah, Kick-Ass shows up with that sick jetpack with the Gatling guns. Thanks for the correction, Phil. And shoots the shit out of everybody that's in there. And then we get kind of the final showdown, and it's like a twofold fight. It's Frank, D'Amico, and Hit Girl. And I just want to put my hand up. Who here forgot that Frank knew karate from earlier in the movie? Because I did.
He has this little dojo where he like sits there practicing.
Right, and I even noted in that scene, here's Frank beating up a training dummy, blah blah blah, and then still by the time it got to the point where he's fighting Hit Girl, I had forgotten that. Oh shit, yeah, he knows karate, right?
I mean, you don't get a 6'9" scar on your forehead from making waffles for your kids on Sunday. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly.
I actually hadn't, Brett, and it's interesting that you say that, because one of the things I really noticed on this watch through of the movie was that they really establish him as like the biggest badass of them all. Because oftentimes when I'm watching these movies and there's like the crime boss, I'm like, why don't these guys just fuck this guy up and just take over his shit?
Because the number two's usually,
yeah. And I was actually, it's just interesting that you say that, because like I was like, oh yeah, like he is actually like, he rules through fear and force, you know. And so I was like, you know, oh yeah, like he's a fucking badass, and like this is, you know, Hit Girl's toughest opponent yet.
Well, he's actually supposed to be based off of like the Genovese crime family, like the real mafia. Yeah. But they didn't want to use the real mafia. If you look up the background of the comic book, they didn't want to use the real mafia because like they didn't want to write about the real mafia and piss off the real mafia.
I was getting a Kingpin vibe from him. From Spider-Man.
Yeah. For sure.
So he's fighting Hit Girl at the same time that Red Mist and Kick-Ass are, I guess you could call it fighting. Really, it's just two nerds with sticks
just beating the crap out of each other.
And they knock each other out.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Frank kind of choke slams Hit Girl through a table, and that's kind of like one of the big finales of that. And he's about to cap her when Kick-Ass shows up with the bazooka. Bazooka's Frank out the window. And it's not enough to get bazooka out a window, but then the explosion, like 50 feet outside the window. That was number 5 on my list of deaths. And then Kick-Ass and Hit Girl fly off. Just
literally into the sunset.
Yeah, literally into the sunset as Red Mist grabs a samurai sword. And like we know here that they're clearly setting up a sequel. But yeah, we get some sweet cityscapes as they jetpack around, blah, blah, blah. We're kind of like trying to wind down the movie with a happy ending, and they shake hands and tell each other their real names. And then we get kind of like and here's what happened narration scene with all the stuff that's going on. Mindy's back living with Marcus. She's attending Dave's school, and like right off the bat, these bullies try to take her lunch money, and they don't show her kicking their ass, but you hear the sounds of her kicking their ass. And Dave's loving life with his new girlfriend, and everyone's happy. Red Mist is happy too because he's become this like super villain, and
which is revealed in the second movie, who is now called the Motherfucker.
Right? Yeah. You don't hear the name, but he's in his chair and he kind of spins around all ominously, and that's a wrap.
Okay, so before we do the things, I just want to point out.
Yeah.
If you could start straight from scratch, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much would you not be anything like Red Mist? Like, who the fuck makes like emo hair from 2010 and like a shitty, like almost like pseudo Robin costume, I guess? Like, who would do that? Like, who?
You guys know I'm a bit of a car guy, and you know I've always had a soft spot for the Ford Mustang, and he's got a Ford Mustang Bullet. Red Mist, and he proceeds to put a bunch of fucking I hope this isn't an offensive term, but ricer mods on it. Like he's got, well, that's what they call them. I don't know, but either way,
who is they, Phil? The racist?
The street racing or scene.
The street racist?
I don't know. God damn it! But either way, he makes it all Tokyo Drift and shit. All right, but
that's way less racist.
Those damn street racists.
The street racists. Yes. Yeah, they're street racists, and they're.
Anyways, yeah, he bastardizes the.
I fucking hate it. But the thing is, yeah, he's got all this. He's all flash and no substance. So.
Yeah, to answer the question, Terrell, I would do the opposite of everything he did.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's like, hey, I'm gonna hide my identity.
Like, what would the list that you provided to your rich gangster dad consist of if you wanted to go and try to be a vigilante superhero?
I'd be like, I'm gonna need a new computer with a GeForce. What's the new one? The 3080.
Of course you would.
I'm gonna need like a sensible vehicle.
Yeah,
and I would just lie about it and get a bunch of shit I wanted.
I'd like and then not actually
3 bedrooms and a finished basement,
and then not actually do the superhero thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that like if I was to make a superhero suit, I think the obvious choice is obviously like not exactly like Batman's costume. Like one of the things that always bugged me, like even in your picture there behind you, Phil, like like Big Daddy's costume. Like, why is it that superheroes feel the need to not cover their chin? Like, that's a very sensitive area that if you're going to be, fist fighting people, probably be an area you want to protect because
definitely. You get punched there. That's the button. Yeah, they call that the button in MMA.
That's what I mean. Like, I hate that in superheroes where they always like wear all this, like, once again, like Big Daddy's wearing all this body armor, obviously he's bulletproof. But technically I could punch him in the mouth and knock him out. You know what I mean? Like,
I never thought of this, but if you think about, kicking ass and wearing like a mask, what do we like? We've learned a thing or two about having your face covered constantly over the last year and a half. I feel like maybe it would, it tire you out maybe a little bit. So, I also was just watching a little mini documentary on, I guess, like the most like the best sniper in the history of the world, and yeah, he got his fucking jaw blown off. So yeah, maybe cover that shit. Yeah, I just wear like a full face hockey helmet.
You'd be wrong, but I believe there's iterations of Batman where he actually has like just like a titanium strap as part of his helmet that goes around just his jaw.
Yeah, there's ones where he has his chin, but
the worst version of
Batman, is the one where he wears like the goggles over his mask. Like I hate that so much in the new Justice League movies.
Yeah. Who do you think has the worst superhero costume?
Of any?
I'm gonna say Superman. Because like
he
takes his glasses off, essentially. Like it's like if I changed my shirt and came back and was like, this is my secret.
Are we talking like in the in cinematic universes or in comics or anywhere?
Wouldn't Kick-Ass have the worst superhero comic?
It's pretty close.
Or at least to have a secret identity of some sort. At least he's got his face, his most visual attributes.
You got a guy like Aquaman who has no secret identity and looks stupid. So
yeah, and it's like, wow, I'm Lord of the Fish.
Yeah, so I'd pick Aquaman for that.
Fuck around in the ocean, guys.
Even though I loved the Aquaman movie personally, I actually really liked it.
I would say the worst.
That place where you can't breathe? Better not be committing any nefarious deeds there, criminals.
You know what the worst superhero costume is, though, in my opinion, in like comic books, especially. Do you guys remember when Iron Man had somehow a skin tight like Iron Man suit, but then had like the steel mask that was not like skin tight?
Right, but the rest of it like meshed around his features.
Yeah, like you could see his muscles still somehow in his robot suit. Like I always found that kind of like just stupid. But anyways, yeah.
So let's finish this off, boys. I'll start with the rankings for Kick-Ass. I guess what I have to say is this was a well-written movie. And I heard this thing recently that like a well-written movie with bad actors will generally be received worse than a poorly written movie with good actors, because actors are so crucial to it. But I think this movie kind of skews the line there, because I love the shamelessness of the writing, and even though only 2 characters really stuck out that I really appreciated, and that was Frank and Big Daddy, the acting in this movie overall didn't blow me away. So I mean, I liked it still, though. I think I'm just gonna give it like a 7. That's what I'm going with.
You know, I think it was an interesting like piece of like satire, and it has like a lot of black comedy elements. I think it starts off like more fun and original than where it ends. I think there's like, I think the character of Kick-Ass has like a certain charm about him when he's like kind of making fun of the superhero tropes, and he's kind of like, you know, combining all of these other characters that we know and love into like a new story, like Batman and Spider-Man obviously is what Kick-Ass is kind of like. And I like that. And I think that if you look at a lot of average ratings in this movie, it does have like really good ratings, and I think that they're justified. I think it's a fun movie to watch. It's one of those movies like, you know, I always talk about this, like how I'm like a film critic now because I've watched a movie. But anyways, now that I am a film critic, I would say this movie, it's one of those films that like fits in either like one of these buckets. It's either you watch a movie to be entertained, or you watch a movie because it's like a piece of art. And like a movie like American Beauty is like controversial and shit, but it is a piece of art. This movie's fun. And if you go into it like with this expectation that's going to be like something that's not, then you're not going to like it. But if you go in it to have fun, you're going to love it. I love the character of Hit Girl. I think it's cool that little girls, you know, kill dudes, and it obviously is not for children. But I like that idea, like to make fun of the fact that some big brawny man.
One line that I forgot to bring up that I didn't have in my notes, but I just remembered now, was when the one nerd guy sees Hit Girl on TV. And he's like, I think I love her, dude. And then
she's like 11 years old, dude.
He's like, I'll wait for her.
Yeah.
Anyways, continue. Sorry about that.
So I'm gonna give it a 7.6.
Nice. I like
out of 10.
Terrell, I'm gonna disagree with you. You know, when we talk about, I actually view this as an art piece. You know, because satire is an art. And also I view this, it's satire, and it's like pop art to me when I watch it. You know, I did not get high to watch this movie. I've decided to take a little bit of a break from the ganjas. You know, I'm a retired consultant as far as providing my stoners POV.
Hey, listen, hold on. If anyone out there takes exception to that, just let me ask you one question. Have you ever worked in the cannabis industry? Because I don't think you have. You know who has? That guy, right?
And Phil, don't worry. I'm gonna smoke weed for me and you both now from now on.
Okay,
out, so.
no problem.
I'm sure we can pick up the slack.
One for Wade and one for Phil.
Wade will pick up the slack too. We know Wade will pick up the slack. Which, speaking of that, go ahead.
But yeah, this movie, you know, it was. I think this might only be the second time I've watched it. But I was stoked to watch it just because I love those gory kills, man. I love that creative violence, and I love the fact that it's you know, it's a superhero movie that's not trying to be family friendly, and it's not trying to be all dark and like Christopher Nolan style. It has fun with it, and you know, I'm known for my gallows humor. And so this really appealed to me. So I'm gonna give it like a 8.3, I guess, because yeah, it was just it's a fun romp, and like I said, you know, I think it is an exploration in the art of filmmaking and that pop art satire aspect of it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's great. So I just wanted to bring up for a sec. We always say if people want to contact us with movie suggestions or anything, that we'll definitely take it into advisement. I got on the Twitter feed a tag from our friend Wade, who's been listening since day one.
What up, Wade?
He seems to think that I kind of look like Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. and basically put our pictures side by side and said, you know what to do. And I think that was a hint that he wants us to do that movie. And that movie's sweet, so we're definitely going to put that in the docket for down the line. We have a few weeks lined up, so it'll be after those. But yeah, we'll definitely take that into advisement and get to that down the line, because we got to do Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's a great movie. But as for next week, we are going to be getting into our kind of May lineup, which we worked on and are pretty excited for. We're going to be doing, the song is Blinding Lights by The Weeknd. And the movie is a classic that everybody knows and likes, Happy Gilmore. So it's going to be a good time. We're going to have fun. It's going to be easy. We've all seen Happy Gilmore a trillion times. So it's going to be really laid back and hopefully enjoyable. So we're excited for that. So once again, follow us on our social media channels. At the Stoners POV on Instagram and Twitter. Check out our YouTube, check out our Spotify, and check out thestonerspov.com for everything in one place as soon as Phil updates it.
Shit's been crazy, guys. Come on.
I get it. We all get it. And listen, these episodes may not come out like clockwork moving forward, and we've just made an executive decision amongst the three of us that it's our show and it'll come out when it comes out. And
yeah, we do what we want around here. All right.
Don't like it? Make your own podcast.
Exactly. And so we do appreciate everybody for listening, though. And we hope you'll tune in next week. So without further ado, that's it for me. I'm Brett. That's Terrell. And that's Phil. And this has been the Stoner's Point of View. We'll see you next week-ish.
Peace.
Under control? You're grabbing a fucking bazooka, you dumbass!